nobody did that. So we did read the Psalms, but I have to say, in my growing up years, they didn't really speak to me very much. And when I was a young adult, I moved to New York and went to a big cathedral, and then all of a sudden, pow, it was kind of like that all around you, and it was just this sort of sublime experience, but still the Psalms seemed very remote in a way. And I was telling Henry earlier, I had an experience here at Trinity a few years ago, and I don't know what it is about Ash Wednesday, but it puts me in a bad mood. I can't figure out if it's too much Mardi Gras or if it's just trying to get yourself all ready for Lent and thinking about all the things that you regret in your life. But I was always in a bad mood. And one year, we were preparing for the Ash Wednesday service, and the psalm truly is the hardest thing to sing in that service, because we'll get to that later, but it's just, Albinus has to work really hard to get us to pull it together. And I was sitting there thinking, I am a worm and no man. And all of a sudden, it clicked that I'm not the only one. And they've been singing this song for 5,000 years or something, and it's okay. That's okay. Every emotion that you could possibly have seems to be expressed in a song. And so for once, God spoke to me through a psalm, and I thought, okay, well, I can deal with it. I'm not alone. So anyway, for what it's worth, that's one of my first experiences of feeling very connected to people that I was worshiping with and to God in that little song. I'm not going to go on and on, but I will tell you the Psalms many of them are attributed to David, and we kind of think of him as the psalm writer. We know now that they were written over a course of about 500 years, between 800 and 200 BCE, and they were probably done in the tradition of David, just like a lot of the other books are done in the tradition of the sort of the father of that movement or whatever. So they were written by lots and lots of different people. And one of the first songs, not psalms in the collection, but songs, is in the book of Exodus, and it's the Song of Moses. So if you're doing the Bible challenge, as you read that, you will hear those very powerful words of how they felt, the Israelites felt that God had saved them from Pharaoh. And that's one of the first psalms in the scripture. The collection of psalms that we have, about 150 of them, and they were mostly probably, there's not a lot of definitive knowledge from anything I can gather, but they came after the time of the Babylonian exile, because they tell that story as part of the collection. So that's part of it. In preparing for this tonight, I got a book by Cynthia Bourgeot, who is a beautiful spiritual teacher, and so I'm stealing from her happily and liberally, and I just thought I'd say that, give her a little credit. But one of the things she points out in her book is that this period of time was what was known in history as the axial period. Now, I'm not a historian, so I did not know that. But there seems to be a huge shift throughout the world, and particularly in Israel, between an understanding of yourself as a part of a tribe, and an understanding, and I'm going to quote her, a transition from a collective identity, that is, an identity through membership in a tribe, to the emergent consciousness of an individual destiny and an individual accountability. So, in other words, some of the Psalms, you can really hear that feeling of belonging to this tribe, and then some of them you'll see become sound much more individual. And we're going to look at a couple. So if you want to take out a prayer book, the first one is Psalm 115. one absolutely speaks to the tribe. So I thought it would be good for us to read it together as a tribe. And we're going to read it in unison. It is Psalm 115. It's on page 757 in the prayer book. Ready? Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory, because of your love and because of your faithfulness. Why should the heathen say, where then is their God? Our God is in heaven. Whatever he wills to do, he does. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. Eyes have they, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. Noses, but they cannot smell. They have hands, but they cannot feel. Feet, but they cannot walk. They make no sound with their throat. Those who make them are like them, and so are all who put their trust in them. O Israel, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. You who fear the Lord, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. The Lord has been mindful of us, and he will bless us. He will bless the house of Israel. He will bless the house of Aaron. He will bless those who fear the Lord, both small and great together. May the Lord increase you more and more, you and your children after you. May you be blessed by the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The heaven of heavens is the Lord's, but he entrusted the earth to his peoples. The dead do not praise the Lord, nor all those who go down into silence. But we will bless the Lord from this time forth forevermore. Hallelujah. So I think you can see there that it's a collective speaking that. Did it? Yes. Okay, and then if you look at Psalm 42 or 22, those are much more personal. This one that we listened to was 22, and that's kind of a lamentation. It's the one that I cited earlier. We always sing it on Ash Wednesday. But, and we'll get back to it, but this is the one that we know Jesus quoted in Mark on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? So it sounds like a lamentation of an individual more than a collective. The Psalms, as you can see, are in our prayer book, and they're also a part of the Jewish prayer book. And John Shallett, who works at TCTC, offered me his prayer book. And if y'all want to take one of these, I thought it would be interesting for you to just see a page. It's a psalm we're very familiar with, Psalm 95. It's part of our morning prayer. Of course, technology is always interesting. But while those go around, what I thought might be interesting and fun would be to see a little bit of what it might have been like for the ancient people of Israel to So what you're going to hear now is this psalm, Psalm 95, and if you want to follow along in your Psalter, you can. But it's going to be sung in Hebrew, and it's just kind of fun for us to hear what that might have been like. And to see, it has some little sketches you can kind of see. Different than what we are used to. It sounds, you can hear how it sounds Middle Eastern, and it's such a different experience of the psalm, but also very passionate, I think. So I thought, well, let's see. The Hebrew word for Psalter, by the way, is Tillim, which almost sounds like a hymn. It looks like that and sounds like it. And the Psalms are also organized just like the Pentateuch. So the first 5 books are the Torah, and they have, you'll see if you look through the Psalm, the book is divided into 5 parts to go along with that. And that is something that I had not known before. The Jewish prayer book and our prayer book both contain all the Psalms, and we use them in all worship. I don't think there's a service in the prayer book that doesn't contain a psalm. And the reason is that they serve to teach us, to remind us who we are, to assure us, and to deepen our experience of worship and our spiritual journey. As we read and pray and chant with the Psalms, we're standing on some of the most ancient, common, holy ground that we have together with in the Judeo-Christian tradition. When we pray, we are praying the same words that Jesus prayed. Not in English, I understand, but still, as I said before on the cross, he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then later, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. And both of those come from the Psalms. And actually, a lot of the worship within our prayer book also is derived, I think, from Psalms. The first Christians were, of course, hiding and oppressed and terrified, and one of the things they did to remind them that Jesus was always going to be present with them was to pray and chant the Psalms together. And that's really how they carried their tradition. And then all of a sudden, when Constantine came along and they were building churches and Christianity was okay then and everybody was having a great time, all of a sudden the real contemplatives, the desert fathers and mothers, went out into the desert and just prayed the Psalms and chanted the Psalms, and again, just kept that contemplative life alive. And around 480, I think, in the Common Era, Saint Benedict started his monasteries, and they began chanting in community again just to continually say that tradition. And really, they lived it. They prayed the daily office, which they started at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and about every 2 or 3 hours, the community would come together and pray, and then they would go back and do their work, and then they would interrupt their work and come back together and pray all day and all night. And in the course of a week's time, they prayed all the Psalms. And it really it was just as if they were living it, breathing it, sharing it with one another, and, expressing both their love for God and God's love for them over and over again. There are several different kinds of psalms. Some books said 5, some said 8, but they are used for lots of different reasons. And so what I thought we would do tonight, just to explore a little bit, is look at some of the different types of psalms, and also look at different opportunities to share them in community with one another. People were asking me if we were going to sing, and we're going to chant a little bit. So we'll see what we can do. So the first one I thought we would try is Psalm 1. And Psalm 1 is a wisdom psalm. And it was written to try to tell people how to live a godly life. And so it's not a terribly long one, but I thought what we would do is read it responsibly. And what we've learned to do, we read the Psalms in morning prayer all the time. What we've learned to do is at the asterisk, we take a little pause. And what that does is it gives us a moment to think about the words we've just said, to breathe together, and to continue on as a community. So we feel as if we're doing it sort of all together in one communal breath. So what I would like to do, if we could, is to have, well, I'll read to the asterisk. I'll read the first verse, and then you all read the second verse responsibly. Happy are they who have not walked in the counsel of the wicked,
nor lingered in the way of sinners, nor sat in the seats of the scornful.
Their delight is in the law of the Lord,
and they meditate on his law day and night.
They are like the trees planted by streams of water, bearing fruit in due season, with leaves that do not wither.
Everything they do shall prosper.
It is not so with the wicked.
They are like chaff which the wind blows away.
Therefore the wicked shall not stand upright when judgment comes,
Nor the sinner in the counsel of the righteous.
For the Lord knows the way of the righteous,
But the way of the wicked is doomed.
So you can see in that psalm, the other thing that they're often sort of almost repeat what they were going to say, but in another way. And I don't know, that seems to just be the form. Okay, another type of psalm is to repeat sacred history. And there are a couple of examples of that. Psalm 78 is one. And you'll see, as we've been reading some of the Old Testament stories, I think this psalm gives you a really good example of how it was then reiterated in worship. So I think, are you ready to try singing?
I don't know.
Okay, we're going to do it very simple. So just breathe. Breathe. We're only going to do a monotone. So even if you can't sing, you can do a monotone. It's going to be one pitch. So I think you might just want to stand up.
Somebody from the choir is here.
And what we're going to do, let's see, how long is this song? It's long.
They said half part. Part one or part two.
Yes. Yeah, we're only going to do, I can't even find what happened a minute ago. All right. Well, I'll tell you what.
It's like a big cockroach.
We'll just do, all right, we're just going to do 1 through 8. Who said that?
Part one.
We're just going to do part 1, verses 1 through 8. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it in unison. We're going to do it on a monotone, so one note. We don't have to move off that note. But we are going to observe the asterisk. So when you get to the asterisk, you'll just pause for a minute, and then we'll go on. All right? So, let's find a note. Bon, that sounds good to me. Hear my teaching, O my people. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will declare the mysteries of ancient times, that which we have heard and known, and what our forefathers have told us. We will not hide from their children. We will recount to generations to come the praiseworthy deeds and the power of the Lord, and the wonderful works he has done. He gave his decrees to Jacob, and established the law for Israel, which he commanded them to teach their children, that the generations to come might know, and the children yet unborn, that they in their turn might tell it to their children, so that they might put their trust in God, and not forget the deeds of God, but keep his commandments, and not be like their forefathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation whose heart was not steadfast, and whose spirit was not faithful to God. All right, have a chair. So tell me a little bit about that experience for you. Say again?
It was short and sweet.
It was short and sweet. How did it feel?
Spiritual.
We were rushing. Yes, we were. Yes, we were.
Did she say refreshing?
Oh, refreshing. We were rushing a little bit too. Oh, I'm glad it was refreshing. Why do you think it was refreshing?
It's rejuvenating community with one another.
And it causes us to breathe too. It's funny. One of the stories I read said that in one of the monasteries, they decided they were going to do away with singing the psalms so much, and all the monks started getting sick, and they couldn't figure out why. And it was because they had stopped the practice of singing and breathing and doing that in community together and hearing those harmonies. And, I don't know if you've heard this, but I remember once on NPR I heard this article, and it was what incredible food it is for our brains to sing harmonically together. So that was a monotone, although there was a little harmony going on in there. just said that it really connects you to time before us, because you realize that these words have been chanted by monks and nuns and Jewish worshipers for centuries. And so it really helps to make you feel like part of that connected community. So I think that's true.
The honorary Jews.
Pardon?
We are honorary Jews.
We're honorary Jews, yes, yes, yes. Well, let's see. The other one I thought we might try, and this one is Psalm number 42, which you know pretty well, and it really speaks to us yearning for God. We have it in our green book, but again, I thought we might just try just a very, very simple psalm chant. We'll just do the first 7 verses, and I think, again, we'll do it together. We'll take a break at the asterisk, and this time, we're just going to do a slightly different. It'll sound like this. As the deer longs for the water brooks, so longs my soul for you, O God. So it's just one step up and one step down. Okay? Let's just try that. As the deer longs for the water brooks, so longs my soul for you, O God. My soul is athirst for God, athirst for the living God. When shall I come to appear before the presence of God? My tears have been my food day and night, while all day long they say to me, where now is your God? I pour out my soul when I think on these things, how I went with the multitude and led them into the house of God, with the voice of praise and thanksgiving, among those who keep holy day. Why are you so full of heaviness, O my soul? And why are you so disquieted within me? Put your trust in God, for I will yet give thanks to him, who is the help of my countenance and my God. So that gives you a little bit more flavor. And you guys are Anglican, so you do the chant every week. When I came here, I had never heard, we sing the Psalm 95 in morning prayer, and there's a Psalm 7 for that. I don't know if you know it. But why don't we see if we do. Psalm 95 is a royal psalm. And we hear it, as I said, in morning prayer. I've never in my life, until I came here, heard it called the Benite, but that's what people in New Orleans call it. So,
That's what people everywhere call it.
Benite, that's really what it's called? It's not just here? Okay, well, it was new to me. Well, so I'm just going to ask you, because you all probably know more about this than I do. Are you familiar with this psalm tune? Come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us shout for joy to the rock of our salvation. We know it? Let's do it.
Is that in the S's?
Pardon me?
In the S's?
Oh, 36. Yes, in the hymnal, S36. I don't know if that tune is there.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, but that's 36.